I just woke up to something hilarious trending on Twitter. It was Nora Roberts and a person named DEBRA. So I was like, what is happening? It's taking the whole Twitter like a storm. So apparently on her official blog, there's an article about her latest book, The Awakening. This is going to be a trilogy. So the first book is out and the second book is going to come out next fall. And then the third book is going to come out in the fall of 2022. That's all great. This is very acceptable for a trilogy. Nora Roberts is particularly a writer who writes a lot of books. She writes reasonably fast as a writer. However, one of her readers was not happy, and her name is Deborah. Deborah replied, why? I know it is a longer book and more complicated, but I also know she likely actually finished it 6-8 months before release. These trilogies cannot be a year apart. And Nora Roberts explained her process, and she said, I did the 3 in 3 months and paperback trilogies once or twice. That schedule was by no means usual or regular. As it was, doing that cramped my writing schedule and seriously impacted my personal life. I can't write that fast. It takes time to write, and it takes a lot of time to write these longer, more complex hardcover trilogies. And then Laura also replied to Deborah. Laura is Nora Roberts' publicist. And she said, Nora's writing the second book now. It's not finished in any way. Then the publisher needs production time. The time between finishing the book and actual release is very busy. So these all sound like reasonable responses. They're just really nicely explaining these to Deborah. And Laura also adds, she says, the publisher sets the dates, working with the author and with a view to what competitors have planned to release so that a book has the best path to success. But Deborah is not satisfied. Deborah says, exactly. The publisher sets the dates so the publisher can change them without disturbing Nora's writing time to shorten the period of time between releases. Also note that the publisher does not consider the customer in their planning. Who should be first? The customer. So here Deborah is slowly showing that she is almost seeing this as if it's a department store. So we're getting our first glimpses at Deborah being the Karen of publishing. But Laura responds again. Laura says, Deborah, please stop. Nora has explained her process as well as the publisher's process. All of this takes the reader into consideration as it gives the writer time to create the best book possible. Publishers have other authors to consider. Nora has other books to write each year, and believe me, there's a vocal group of in-depth readers who would be angry if they didn't get 2 entries in the series per year. In Death is the other series Nora Roberts is writing right now. But this doesn't satisfy Deborah. Deborah says, please stop making comments on a blog about publishers setting release dates according to their timeline and not considering the customer. What is wrong with suggesting that the publisher can alter a release schedule? They can, and they do many times, assuming that just because we read Nora's book, we have no idea about anything that a publisher does is insulting. It's a business. It should consider its customer. Without the customer, there is no business. This is Business 101. And this comment is also a lesson in Karen 101 by Deborah. She continues, I'm sorry that you do not want me to state facts. Publishers can and do publish books in less than 6 months. Fact. It does not have to affect Nora's writing time. Fact. A publisher does sit on manuscripts when it's prudent or they're waiting for an event before they release. Fact. Publishing trilogies a year apart is simply a marketing strategy. Fact. I'm reading the book for a second time. Fact. I will read it again before the next book drops. Fact. That doesn't mean I cannot comment on the fact that the publisher that controls the release date cannot change the release dates. If you do not want people to post facts, if you do not want people to post facts, do not have a blog open for comments. So Deborah clearly has no idea about publishing. She knows nothing about publishing, but she acts like she does. But she is trying to lecture Nora Roberts, who is a writer who has published over 200 books. So Nora Roberts responds, and she's being incredibly nice here too. She says, I have personally explained the process to you, Deborah. This is going to be my new motto. I have personally explained the process to you, Deborah. You know what? I'll even make a t-shirt of it maybe. If I do that, I'll link it in the description. You are not stating facts, but opinions. But you continue to contradict me as you apparently think you know more about publishing than I do and more than the industry professionals I work with. Fact. Publishing the trilogy a year apart is not a marketing strategy. I haven't finished writing the second book and won't begin to write the third until next fall. Your opinion that the publisher should wait a year or two holding a completed manuscript or two is in fact not how publishing works. You're not commenting but contradicting and insisting against every fact given you that you're right and I'm wrong, that Laura's wrong, that everyone who disagrees with you is wrong. Once again, I ask, do you work in publishing? If so, you'd know that in order to publish a major release in less than 6 to 8 months means serious added cost. It's called crashing for a reason. This is not how the process is intended to work or should. You can keep insisting you're right, you know better than I do how publishing works, but that won't turn your opinion into a fact. But that does not satisfy Deborah, and she says, I understand it takes time. Too long, but that is another argument to publish. Then to satisfy your readers, the customer is always right. Again, Karen is coming through. Alter the process. Have the first one done and printed, ready to ship, the second one written and in production, and while the third is still being written, release first. 6 months release, second. And by then, the third should be complete and in production and can be released within 6 months as well. It's not hard. And she adds, you could still have the year you need to write and refine, but the release schedule will be different. As I said, it is not hard. And she keeps adding, yes, and my schedule did not affect her time to write. It was all on the publisher's timing. Read and comprehend. It is not hard. Nora Roberts responds again, and she's being incredibly nice. I don't know why they don't just let it go, but like they are really trying to educate this person. And she says, stop. You literally don't know what you're talking about. You read and comprehend. I've explained the general gist of how it all works. Your schedule isn't how any of it works. And she adds, it simply doesn't work that way, not the creative process or the business of publishing. It just doesn't. Not how it works, and you have no idea of the hard. If the publisher waited until they have the 3 books in-house, then you wouldn't have the first book until 2022 at the earliest, which would leave the publisher with a couple large holes in their schedule, a cash flow issue, as they would have to pay me for the books as I turn them in, then sit on them for a couple of years, and readers would complain I didn't have a book out as usual. It's really easy to say, it's not hard, when you have no idea what goes into the process. Write a few books and work with a publisher or work in publishing for a few years, then tell me it's not hard. And she keeps explaining, I can't do it, the publisher can't do it, the editor can't do it. It's not only about the reader, it's the process. I'm not a machine. The publisher can't possibly accommodate every reader in the world of readers' wants and expectations. This trilogy is not the only book this one publisher has to deal with. It is hard. It's all hard except the reading. You read in a matter of days what takes me months to write, what it takes a publisher more months to edit and produce. What goes into creating a book is so damn hard. What goes into taking that creation and putting it on the shelf for the reader is hard. Basically, you want the publisher to wait 2-3 years before publishing and swallow all the costs so you can get the books in a trilogy quickly. When I'm still writing the second book at this moment, I haven't even begun the third. Well, I can't write fast enough to satisfy you, and publishing doesn't work the way you want it to. And I find myself discouraged and annoyed because I work my butt off and I know how hard my editor works, how hard my publisher works, but for some it's just never enough. Have you written and published? Have you worked in publishing? Do you actually know how it works? I'm going to take flack for this. I can literally see Laura pulling her hair out because I'm writing this, but enough, just enough. I'm not your slave. The publisher is not your slave. I'm spending my freaking holidays worried and obsessed about getting this book written. And well, so the publisher has time to edit it, produce it, do the cover art, print it, distribute it, and for some it's just never enough. Comments like this make me wish I'd never written this book in the first place. When the customer is unreasonable, the customer is not right. Now go ahead, tell me you'll never read me again because I'm a rude bitch who doesn't respect my readers. I don't care because respecting my readers, my work, and the people who work so hard to put my books out is why it takes so long. I actually think she's being extremely respectful here. She doesn't owe any explanation to this person who has no idea how anything works, but she's really trying to educate this person. And she replies, the intent was not to stress Nora out. I specifically said that several times. Her writing schedule does not have to change. To say that the publisher cannot change their practices, however, is incorrect. The publisher can do whatever their customer base wants them to do, and if they are smart, they will. They make changes every day in the content that they publish. If they're pushed enough, the changes will happen. We see it continuously in the business community. I wonder what business community she's working in. With today's technology, there's literally no reason for it to take 6 to 8 months to publish a book, especially a nonfiction book. Here it gets even more bonkers. She gives us a glimpse of her expertise in nonfiction publishing as well. Many publishers have books come out faster than that. It may take some time to receive the Library of Congress number and the copyright. Textbooks, which used to take 10 years to update, are now updated every 2 years, and that is a larger book with numerous references, facts to check, and permissions to receive. The book was awesome. The series just does not need to be released on annual schedule. Yes, I realize Nora writes other books each year. The issue is not with Nora, it's with her publisher. When a company stops listening to customers, it usually fails. Plenty of examples out there. Oh my god. Laura is losing her patience. She's like, if your intention was not to stress Nora, I'm afraid you failed. She has explained the process. She writes fiction, which goes through different parameters than nonfiction. From the time it takes the art department to create a gorgeous cover to the PR and marketing teams getting the word out, this is not going to change. I think it's time to either accept that you'll read the next book in November 2021 or just walk away. And Nora responds again, I ask again, do you work in publishing? If not, you can't possibly know. It's not about the tech. I, a human being, yet write and turn in the best manuscripts I can. My editor, a human being with other authors who also turn in manuscripts, must then edit the book. She must do this while working with the managing editor for scheduling, working with the art department for cover concepts, and much more. The book has to go to a copy editor, a human being. The book may have to come back to me, a human being, for revisions. The copy editor will most certainly have some questions that must be addressed. I like that she's really giving this long explanation of how the publishing process works. I think this is helpful for all of us to know. She says, and that's just the editing part of the process. How does the tech play into any of that? There are human beings who shepherd a book from concept to completed book delivered to the shelves or formatted for e-sales. But rather than accept you're wrong about this issue, you continue to claim you know more about it than I do, than my editor, my agent, all of us with 4 decades in the business, and with all the people who worked at St. Martin's Press. Because you're the customer? I've got more reasons, more facts, more of the process that illustrates why you're just wrong, but this is enough. It's humans who write, edit, and produce a book, not tech. She also says, I haven't yet finished the first draft of the second book. I also write the In-Death series, 2 a year, and the hardcover suspense every year. These trilogies have to be a year apart so I can write them well, and have an actual life away from the keyboard. And the book takes 6 to 8 months to publish after a manuscript is accepted. A lot goes into that process. But Deborah is just never going to be convinced. She's like, agree, the publishers can't adjust the time frame without rushing Nora. She used to say the same thing. Nora Roberts is like, no, they can't. Are you a publisher? Do you work in some capacity for a major publishing house? Add to that, I would fight my publisher if they tried to hold one of my books in-house for a couple of years, which they simply wouldn't because it's not how it works. Deborah doesn't respond after that. I don't know if she'll be back later, but Nora Roberts puts a final summary here and says, please, those of you who don't or haven't worked in publishing, don't assume you know how it works. The publisher can't just send a completed manuscript. and assume the next in a series will come right along. The writer and publisher work in tandem. My writing schedule is directly attached to publication. When I turn in a manuscript, directly connects to when a book can be scheduled. I can't and won't write any faster than I do. I can't. And she is already writing incredibly fast, by the way. And the publisher requires months and months to take the unedited manuscript I turn in and produce the book you find on the shelves. It's not magic, it's work, time consuming work that demands a lot of effort and creativity. If I haven't finished book 2, started book 3, have in-depths to write, have another suspense to write, how can anyone expect me or the publisher to just shoot them out? Could you just enjoy or not what I do, write and publish, and not make me feel so stressed about what I can't possibly do and what I know my publisher can't possibly do? We're all doing the very best we can. Honestly, I feel sick and sad right now because instead of enjoying a story, some are upset and angry I and my publisher didn't somehow dig out more and want to tell us what we should do and how to do it and feel entitled to do so because they buy the books. Well, I write them. My publisher employs many hardworking people to put them on the shelves. All of us want to give the reader what he or she wants, but sometimes the reader just wants more than we can give. I mean, it's really sad that she got upset because of this comment. She is really one of the fastest writers. She writes so many books, and being a writer is really stressful. And there are hundreds of encouraging comments under this blog post, but that one negative comment can get to you. So yeah, if you talk about things that you don't know, you get served by Nora Roberts herself. I did not expect this thread to go on for so long. They really took her seriously and tried to explain her how things work. But I guess in the process, we learned some details about publishing too, especially even for a writer who writes a lot of books. And it's really strange to me that someone would argue about publishing with Nora Roberts, who has written over 200 books. But welcome to the internet. Anyway, I just want to fill you in on this. If you just woke up and are confused what's happening on Twitter, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like to let me know. In this channel, I do mostly critical book reviews. So if you'd like to see more bookish content, don't forget to subscribe. And let me know in the comments your favorite Nora Roberts books. And I'll see you next time.